Apple made 5 big announcements yesterday. That was watchOS 6, iOS 13, iPadOS 13, macOS Catalina, and a new Mac Pro. Let me give you some of my thoughts on each one of these products. watchOS 6 was a minor update. Apple didn't spend too much time on it. They obviously added some new features, some new watch faces, some new straps, and some new apps that they've been working on. Some of their own apps like voice notes and reminders are now on the watch, which I think is quite a big thing. They also announced that they would be adding a calculator to the watch. Can't believe that they didn't have a calculator. How ridiculous. I mean, a calculator is a really simple thing, but there's some really cool features in the calculator app, and for the first time I actually feel like the Apple Watch is actually gaining some momentum and actually getting somewhere with its software. I've never really liked the Apple Watch, not just because of its price. I just don't think it offers as much as the other watches, but that's more because I'm looking for a fitness device, and the Apple Watch is not really a good fitness device. But I think for the first time the Apple Watch has become appealing to me. macOS Catalina offers some new features. Most notably is the removal of iTunes. iTunes will now be split up into 3 different apps: Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, and Apple TV. The Photos app in macOS Catalina will match the iOS app, the Photos app in iOS 13. So when I chat about iOS 13, we'll talk about that Photos app, which has got some really nice features. Along with that, there'll be updates to the Reminders app, the Notes app. There will also be the Screen Time app that is now on iOS will be put onto the Mac as well, so it will be able to monitor your screen time on your Mac and give you an overview of how much time you're spending on all your devices. But what really is happening with macOS Catalina is that we can see the mergence between iOS and macOS, as a lot of the apps on macOS Catalina become similar to the apps that are on iOS. Apple's sort of trying to integrate the system so that it looks the same and feels the same no matter what device you're using. The big thing for developers about macOS Catalina is that it's really easy now to take your apps from an iOS app or iPadOS app onto the Mac, which Apple's been displaying with some of their own apps, which is quite a nice feature. We're going to see more and more apps on the Mac, and there'll be some cross integration. You'll be able to use your app on your Mac, and then you'll be able to work straight away onto your iPhone or your iPad with the same app. So it will make that transition quite easily between which device you're using. And one of the great security features in macOS Catalina is the Find My app that Apple have released. They've combined the Find My Friends and the Find My iPhone app into one app, and it's called Find My. And now you can find your computer even when it's not connected to a Wi-Fi. So the way this works is that it sends off a Bluetooth signal, and it will connect with any iPhone within the vicinity, and it will share that location with the app. This is all done encrypted data, so it's not, no one can track it or anything like that. It's very secure, so don't worry about your safety. A lot of people are also concerned about the battery life of your device, as it's constantly being monitored for a location. Apple has said that it won't have much effect on the battery life, but that could just be a marketing spin. We wait to see how the performance of that application and system actually works. So let's chat about iOS 13, something that most people are looking forward to, even more so than actual devices. Apple's big announcement for the iOS 13 was dark mode. I'm not really sure why this is such a big deal. I think a lot of people like it. I'm not particularly that fond of it, although it does look really cool when Apple displayed it and when Apple showed it. It really looks amazing. So that's quite a cool feature. If you're into that kind of stuff, it will be looks really, really awesome. Now the biggest app that gets updated is the Photos app within iOS 13, and exactly the same app will be on the Mac. It will work in the same way. What's really great about this is that it categorizes your photos by day, month, and year, and it gives you this awesome display and view of how you categorize your photos. So if you're looking at the yearly view of your photos, it will take the current year that you're in. So if you take a photo today, and exactly a year ago you took a photo, it will show that photo as the cover photo for that year. So it sort of gives you this timeline over this day in the history, sort of like the Time Hop app, if you know what that is. The current Photos app allows you to do very little editing of your photos on your iPhone. The new features will add in a whole lot more photo editing features, something that Apple removed a few years ago from their Photos app. They have now brought those back in, and they allow you to do the same editing as you do with your videos. So you can edit a video in the same way that you would edit your photos. This to me signals that Apple's going to be spending a lot of time during their 2019 iPhone launch talking about photos, as the rumors are that they're adding a triple lens camera onto the 2019 iPhones. So look forward to more features about cameras coming up. I've really mocked Apple for this in the past. They spent a lot of time talking about photos and cameras on their phones, which particularly for me is a waste of time. I'm not a huge photo person, but there are obviously a lot of people out there that enjoy that kind of thing. Another two apps that are getting updated that won't affect people in South Africa is the Maps app and the HomeKit app. With the new Maps app, you can create collections. Now these collections are basically just like categories of locations that you want to visit, whether it be restaurants or hotels or tourist attractions. You can create a list, and you can even share that with your friends. So if you're going on holiday with someone and you've created a collection of places you want to visit on that holiday, and you can share that with those people, and they'll get a list of all those locations onto their Maps app. Siri has a new voice, which is a little bit smarter than the current voice, which sounds very digital and computerized. The new voice sounds more slick and more clean. If you're using AirPods, Siri will now read your message to you as it arrives in your AirPods, so you don't have to pull out your phone, and you can respond to that message immediately using Siri too. The other thing you can do with AirPods is you can connect two sets of AirPods to one phone, and you can share your music with someone. So you can both listen to the same song off one device. Apple have also added a whole lot of new features to Memojis. You can now customize your Memoji more than ever before and add all sorts of features to it. The Messages app is also getting updated, where you can have your own profile picture and you can create your own name just like you would in WhatsApp. So that if you send someone a message who doesn't have your number, their photo will come up and their name as well, so that you know who you're talking to. The keyboard in iOS 13 has also been updated with a swipe feature, much like Android have had for many, many years. The Reminders app also gets an update, new design, new layout. Overall, I think there's some really exciting features in iOS 13, and I'm really excited to get my hands on it. In the past, I've been really disappointed with Apple over the last few years, but I felt like this keynote was one of the best keynotes I've watched in probably about 4 years. I really think Apple have upped their game, and they've started creating some amazing things. So let's chat about iPadOS, because this is the major announcement from Apple's keynote. Essentially, the iPadOS is separating itself from the iPhone operating system, and it's offering a whole lot more. It's making the iPad more like a computer, and this is really exciting. It allows you to share files, to add USB flash drives, to add external drives in, and so many more features that a computer can do that iPhones have never been able to do and iPads haven't been able to do. iPads have been sort of stuck in the middle between a computer and a phone, but using a phone's operating system. And now with iPadOS 13, they're now making that leap closer towards a computer. And for the first time, I actually feel like I could drop my computer and use an iPad. iPadOS 13 allows you to install customized fonts, and it has this amazing app switching mode, sort of like Expose or Mission Control on a macOS, which I think is really fantastic. I really see this link between what macOS does and what an iPadOS does, and I'm really excited about it. Now, something that Apple are doing, which I think is really fantastic, is privacy settings. They've now adding a feature that's sign in with Apple, which is similar to sign in with Facebook or sign in with Google, except Apple are not sharing any information with the third party that you're signing in with. So Apple allows you to choose which information they receive, and you can even block them from receiving that information. So if they require you to have an email address, Apple will create a email address in the background that won't be yours, and it will redirect emails that get sent to that address to your private email. So they're creating a system whereby you can sort of turn those emails on and off without having to worry about contacting the third party. You can deal directly with Apple. You don't have to worry about the third party, and the third party receives no information about you unless you give them permission, and at any time you can take that away from them, which is amazing. The last thing that Apple announced was a new Mac Pro. This has been in the pipeline for a long time, and it clearly showed to me that Apple have sort of regained focus on what's important to them. A few years ago, Apple released a new Mac Pro, which is a cylindrical shaped Mac Pro. It wasn't customizable, you couldn't change anything in it, and it wasn't really great, and a lot of people complained bitterly about it to Apple. It didn't work as well as Apple had sort of spoken about, and Apple had released this as their big marketing efforts to show that they were innovative, and I think it backfired on them. And this new Mac Pro, I think, clearly shows that they've learned their lessons and they're on the right track. The new Mac Pro is really for very, very high-end Pro users, and it's gone back to a similar style of the original Mac Pro with the old tower computer style feel with Apple's classic aluminium look. Now, this Mac Pro is the most customizable Mac Pro that Apple have ever released. There's so much that this thing can do, it's actually insane. But the other thing that's insane about it is the price. It is absolutely ridiculous, the price. But if you're a pro and you need it, you're willing to pay that price to get that customization. Along with the Mac Pro, Apple released a new screen, external display. And this display has got the amazing features that you would expect to go with an amazing product like a Mac Pro. One thing I really found fascinating is that they sell the screen by itself and you have to buy the stand separately. Now, the stand alone sells for $999. That's almost $1,000 for an aluminium stand for a screen. That is ridiculous. All in all, I think it was an amazing keynote by Apple. I think it shows that they're moving in the right direction after a couple bad years of bad keynotes. The previous keynote that Apple did, I remember at the end of the keynote thinking that is the worst keynote I've ever watched in my life. They announced almost nothing and they just talked a lot of hype. Whereas this keynote, I feel like they actually spoke about a lot of amazing things, and they started listening to their customers and they started adding things on that it really makes sense, which is big ups to Apple for that. Really looking forward to getting my hands on their new software, and let's be excited about their new products that they're going to release at the end of the year. I think they've hopefully this is a clear sign that they're going to have some amazing products for us towards the end of the year.